Hi everyone, welcome back. This video I'll be focusing on Act 4 of the storytelling teacher approach. So if you've missed any of my previous videos looking at Acts 1, 2 and 3, please go back and check them first and come and join us later. So far as a story, we've set up our learner as the main character. We've introduced and assessed a problem for a central question, and we've assessed their developing knowledge against at least one activity. We've thrown in a twist or reveal at the midpoint before assessing this and their understanding against at least one more task. Now we've reached Act 4 and we're going to raise the stakes for our learners. So like Act 2, Act 4 can be a relatively short sequence within your lesson depending on the complexities of the topic being explored. It also allows you to set up the final shift in the story that will keep our learners engaged till the end. Act 4 is ultimately about setting up the final assessment task for the session, what I like to call a new, bigger problem. This task will allow you to measure your learners' progress against your lesson objectives. However, Act 4 is not about them completing this final task, but it is instead about introducing the challenge and building in an opportunity to reflect on the pressure points that were explored in Act 3, but also developing a plan to solve the final task. This process reinforces the relevance of the activities that have been done throughout the lesson, but also gives the learners some space to consider how that knowledge and understanding can be applied. They're not necessarily feeling like they're rushing in and acting without putting some thought behind it. We call this act raising the stakes because the final assessment task will be a challenge that requires learners not just to recall their knowledge, but apply it with little teacher guidance. Naturally, the task should relate to the central question and give learners the opportunity to give a definitive response to it. But the final challenge shouldn't be to answer the question as it is. It needs to have a scenario or context with it. So let's take a math session with a central question of, in a cell, is an additional 20% a good deal? Now, if I was planning this session, my first activity in Act 3 might be to recap and test learners' knowledge on calculating simple percentages using retail examples. But then for my midpoint, I would reveal that in retail, often additional percentages are taken off the sale price, and therefore what you think might be a bigger reduction isn't necessarily the case, and there's two calculations that need to be made. My activity 2 would then explore this with learners, identifying how much is actually saved on different sale items using the 2 steps of calculation. In Act 4, I would therefore reflect on what we have done and then raise the stakes by setting that final task. Remember, it needs to have a narrative, so it could be something like, is an extra 20% off a 35% discounted item better than half price? Quite a straightforward question which will require them to apply that understanding. Or alternatively, I could do it as a scenario. You've gone shopping and these items are on sale. Order these into which gives the biggest savings. Knowing the task set, I would then allow learners to identify and discuss what approaches they need to apply in solving this challenge. Having this opportunity to recap knowledge and develop clear steps to solve the problem is really beneficial to the learners. This again helps develop critical thinking and problem solving skills. Now that the learners know their final assessment activity and have a clear idea of approach, we can now move into our final act, which I'll explain in my next video. If you're finding the storytelling teacher approach useful and interesting, please let us know. Like and share on social media and subscribe to the Curious Spirit YouTube channel, or alternatively to my LinkedIn newsletter. You can also visit my website at curiousspirit.co.uk, where you can book workshops where I dive deeper into each act and can show you how to further boost engagement, embed critical thinking and problem solving skills, and maximize your success as a storytelling teacher. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.